the everyday life, getting used to just these little nuances and all this stuff. It's this weird thing where it never turns off. I think that just put a bit of pressure or strain on my mental health.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean, and you can visit the website, thegermanyexperience.de. You'll probably have noticed last week that there was no episode, and that is because I was vaccinated. I got my first vaccination. It was BioNTech. And after that, I was extremely fatigued for a few days, had a massive headache, and so I just couldn't get around to working on the episode that I had planned. And actually, this episode is going to be the last one for a while. I'm going to be taking a summer break from the podcast, but I will be posting reruns of episodes from 2020. So if you haven't heard those yet, now is your chance. And I'll be back in September with brand new episodes of the Germany Experience. And now on to my guest this week. I discovered Aspen on the Expat Cast, actually, when she did an interview with Nicole. And since then, I've been following Aspen's YouTube channel, Aspen Abroad. A few months ago, she did a video with someone named Claudio that covered the topics of mental health, exercise, and motivation. It's such a great video, and it's linked in the show notes. And I related to so much in it. And since I have been covering the topic of mental health among foreigners in Germany in some recent episodes, I wanted to talk to Aspen about this. Aspen is just so honest and has really spent a lot of time reflecting on herself and her life here. And she has a lot of insights and I think a lot of things that people can relate to when it comes to trying to adjust to life in Germany and handling the pressures that it brings. We cover Aspen's experiences as a foreigner here, the effect that her YouTube channel has had on her, and she explains the dangers of toxic positivity. Now, unfortunately, the tool that I used to record our chat didn't record such great audio quality, but it is still a great interview nonetheless. Here is Aspen. Maybe just give us a background of where you're from and how you ended up in Germany.
Yeah, so as my social media names say, I'm abroad, and I am abroad in Germany from Hawaii in the US. So that's where I grew up. And I've been here living in Munich for almost 8 years now.
Mm-hmm. So what is it about Germany that's made you stay? Like, if I always find when someone stayed beyond like 3 to 5 years, then there's a definite love affair with the country or some reason that's making them stay here long term. What is your reason?
Yeah, for me, it's really, it's a love-hate relationship. Of course, I'm sure you know this. It's constantly fighting, constantly. You're never, as good as your German gets, you're never going to be good at German. So it's just constant everyday challenges. But the one thing which just really stole my heart is the hope that I have here and the hope that it gives me and sort of the optimism it fuels. Because my biggest issue with the US is that you live there. And if you're a person like me where you want to work, you want to develop, grow, be successful in your life, the US doesn't really provide you with too many opportunities if you're from a lower socioeconomic status. So this concept of the American dream, I've only found to exist in Germany. So having lived here and seeing that, oh my goodness, if I put in work, I get something from it. I have opportunities to enjoy my life. What? Within the challenges? That's crazy. And so it kind of got me hooked there.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the great things about Germany, because a lot of, even from South Africa, where I'm from, the understanding is that you work hard and like you really work hard, and that meant weekends, for example, and that's also another thing. I think that's why Germans are so successful, or Germany is so successful, is because they have that understanding. Like there's a lot of appreciation for taking time off. There's a lot of vacation days here in Germany, so that also factors into that. And of course, the free education is another massive thing that I think makes Germany feasible for, like you say, the American dream, but I guess it's the German dream.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting in that regard that Americans, we told this huge thing about upward mobility. This is our dream. And it's like, but you can't really achieve it at all anymore And in Germany, that was just the allure, because it's not like I have these huge illusions of grandeur, like I'm going to be the richest person, I'm going to be the most successful. It's more like I was in the States, I was working so hard and thinking, okay, I'm going to build a nice life for myself. But constantly was just sort of stabbed in the back, and sort of just the country disrespected me for having this hardworking mentality. It's like, that's not what you should be like. But in Germany, it's this thing where you work hard and then you're like, oh my gosh, but I can also enjoy my life while being able to afford it. This is crazy. Just sort of that thing of like, everybody should have sick days. They should have holiday. Life isn't about working only. Yeah. And so, that little luxury, I feel, has really got to me as an American.
Yeah, I don't know if I could work back in South Africa ever again. Like this, it's not an option for me. Obviously, I'm here long term, but it's just the mindset is completely different. And what I've also found now, I don't know if this is a thing of getting older or having worked for more years, but I'm also at the point now where I am ambitious in a different way. I'm ambitious to do something that fulfills me and satisfies me a bit more. And that's also something I think is easier to pursue in Germany. Like it's feasible.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to say that sort of the thing that I really noticed actually recently, sort of the changes to that part of my mentality or outlook on life, because I moved to Europe when I was around 18. I lived in a couple countries before, settling in Germany, but that's a long story. It was basically a big strategy. I knew I wanted to settle down, but I was like, listen, you're too young, just get out all this and then settle, get to the hard work. Because as you know, once you come to Germany, it's hit the ground running, hard work. Otherwise, you cannot make it through your first couple of years, basically. But the thing is I've always had to work and sort of provide for myself from a young age. So it's in the U.S., it is sort of the mentality. I don't know how it is where you come from, but it's like you just work, and the whole reason is just to get your life managed, to pay your bills, and it's a luxury to think about doing things you enjoy, because they're just not a priority if you don't come from a background that's abundant in resources. So it's always been that type of thing where I just will burn myself out working, because it's sort of like this survival thing where you're like, I can't. It's a luxury to take time. It's a luxury to just do something simply because it sparks joy. And so then living in Germany and just having the mentality of, even just in the work culture, be like, if you're sick, stay home, don't work. Or, you have these holiday days, you have to take them off, and we're not going to give you money in lieu of for some of them, because you need your time off. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And so after, 7 years, finally, I start to think, you know what? I should focus more on how I want to enjoy my life, and not just what I'm doing for work. Because I got really caught up in that for a very long time. It's just because it wasn't my culture to be like, oh, great, I have holidays. What am I going to plan this year? It was more like, I will maybe do holidays if I've met my personal working goals or, achievement goals for myself. And then it turned into, okay, well, this is never going to happen because I'm always going to raise the bar a little bit. And I just have to learn to mix in enjoying myself in between. Otherwise, oh, wait a second, I can't work now, have fun later, because it doesn't work that way.
Yes. It was something that you mentioned as well about the taking time off is a massive factor for me, because like we said, we've got those extra vacation days, but also the sick days that you can take. I think you get 2 sick days here where you can be sick and not have to provide a doctor's note or anything. And then, of course, from the 3rd day, then you provide a doctor's note, which is great to have that time. I was looking at an article from Australia, and they have something called, I can't remember what it was now. I'm probably going to say this name wrong, but it's something like Doona days or something, which are pretty much duvet days. So there's a lot of companies in Australia are starting to introduce this, where you get 1 or 2 days a year where no questions asked, you say, I can't come in. And it's intended to be for mental health purposes or wellness purposes, which I was reading. I was like, that's a great concept. But then I thought, well, Germany is actually way, way ahead with this, because you have that more than those days. You can take 2 days off at any time if you're not feeling well, and also if to get krankgeschrieben is no problem. So on one side, I've always felt like, okay, it's a little too easy to get written off sick in Germany, but at the other side, you do have a lot of mechanisms to get yourself well if you're not feeling great or if you're in a bad place. So from that perspective as well, it's massive.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sort of that is a huge aspect to where I just also stayed because I saw, okay, this is healthy for me in so many different ways. Or I go to my house arts, so my GP, and I've had a couple of times where I was sick, and she tells me, yeah, I think that you're getting sick a lot because you might be really stressed from work, and this is your body's response to this pressure. Like, I don't think there's actually anything too bad with your immune system, but I think this is just what your body's doing and what you tell me from work. Maybe I'm going to write you off a couple of days if you like, and just rest and try to limit your stress, and you might not get sick as much anymore. And for me, having like a doctor tell me this was it was so strange because I was like, really? Okay. She's like, yeah. And you know what? If you need longer, I will write you off longer, but I don't want to see you coming in here sick all the time because you're working so much. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you said earlier that you previously or before you had this mindset of work, and maybe it came from the fact that you said you had to work from quite a young age, as far as I understood what you were saying, and now you're less of that. And I think in one of the video, I think it was the Claudio video, that you said that you were working really hard at a point in time. So I guess that you are a bit of a workaholic at heart.
Yeah, I definitely am. I mean, my doctor tells me to take a sick day, and I will generally be very sick, like tonsillitis, and I'm like, no, I can do it. Just one day, so I don't get in trouble for missing a third day, but I will be back the next day. Yeah. Or I'll be sick, and I got in trouble a lot of times because companies can actually get in very big trouble if you're supposed to be out sick working and you're working, which I did. And so, because I really love my work. I love what I do, and I love just constantly being challenged and seeing myself develop and grow. I get stir crazy if I don't do anything. Like, even for me, accepting now the topic of holidays and taking breaks, I'm like, I don't know. Can I just? I guess I'll just not work, but I'll maybe run a marathon by myself for fun. And then I'm like, no, you gotta take time. Like, I gotta
take time.
That's my mentality, unfortunately. But yeah, when I had the talk with Claudio, that was sort of a big break in this learning experience of, this is cool. It's, has its benefits, but no extremes. Like, keep things a bit in moderation for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of your YouTube channel, so as we said, it's Aspen Abroad, and you cover a lot of things to do with life in Germany and so on. Mm-hmm. And the video with Claudia that I just mentioned, you spoke about running, specifically how running has helped you, and mental health. And it was a great discussion. I love that video with you and Claudia, because he's also, you two very insightful people, and there were a lot of amazing things that I completely related to when I was watching that. But mental health is something that you've mentioned a few times on your channel. It's something that you've spoken about before. So what is your relationship with mental health?
Yeah, so this one is, I think, a bit more complicated than most, but it's something that recently I've realized is super significant and important to me, and I think will definitely change and shape how I start producing content moving forward. Because mental health is actually a very big topic that's close to my heart, as it had a lot of problems with my family and growing up. When I was younger, my dad died, and it was related to his issues with depression. And so it's always been this, I guess, big part of my life, having experienced that, but also just seeing how it affects people and how basically it sort of creeps up if you don't pay attention to it, And so that was sort of also one point where along the way I started realizing, I can't live my life just like this. So when I moved actually out of the States, that was one push, just having that sort of build up, and then seeing how mine was deteriorating a little bit because I was working so hard, and then knowing that, you know what, there's this cycle in the US, not much is going to come from it, it started to weigh down on me. And I thought, okay, you know, that I've seen how not taking care of your mental health or acknowledging your needs can basically ruin things, for lack of a better phrase. And so I thought, okay, well, I need to then move somewhere else where I can start focusing on, you know, catering to my life in a more holistic aspect. So not just working to pay my bills, but take care of myself in a variety of different ways.
Yeah. So you already, from what I understand, may have been experiencing some mental health issues, or I don't want to say mental health issues, but you were experiencing some things before you came to Germany. Now, the thing about foreigners is that they have a lot of extra stress to what normal people would have, I guess you could say. So if you're an ambitious person at work, you've got those set of pressures on you. But there's a whole lot of other things happening for foreigners behind the scenes as well. So you've got learning the language, and that takes a lot of time and effort, and also a lot of failure where you go away, and people who may be hard on themselves go, oh my God, I'm never going to do this. I'm a failure at this. And then you've also got the stress of meeting friends, making connections to Germany, making all kinds of things. So I always feel like this is a danger for foreigners, because they have not just your normal stresses that could be difficult for people alone. They have all these extraneous things leading to that, and maybe also impacting their self-esteem or impacting their view of themselves and so on. So how is a foreigner? How has that been for you, being a foreigner in Germany?
It's been for sure a roller coaster and a lot of ups and downs, because the trickiest thing is I thought my life would get so much better. Well, just like magic, everything changes to good once I move out of the States. And then I realized, okay, when it comes to the survival aspect, of course, that is a lot better. I have this security I never had before. I have healthcare. I have great job opportunities, career opportunities, and I'm not struggling to pay my bills. Yeah. And just there's this sort of security, but it is the aspect where in the US, I was so focused on that, I never really had to focus so much on the social aspect. And of course, it is my country I'm used to. So how people talk, the meeting, the inflection, I go to the grocery store, I know exactly every aisle, I know this and that. It's just everything is sort of second nature. Whereas I got to Germany, and my main problem I was focused on was sort of solved for the most part. But then I had to just jump into this whole area where I just never actually had to involve myself so much in. So of course it is, you know, the little things adjusting to the style of working here. Okay, that's not the worst. But just the social aspects, how to do that, and just the everyday life, getting used to just these little nuances and all this stuff. It's this weird thing where it never turns off. I think that just put a bit of pressure or strain on my mental health.
Yeah, it is. What you said is interesting, that you had some factors actually removed. So in some ways it did get better, like your financial situation. Because I think that's a massive thing as well. When people are worried about finances, that can really drag you down and seem like everything is not worth it, or it's, if you're experiencing financial things. So that was interesting that was maybe removed. But yeah, then you have all these new aspects which definitely take their toll, we could say. And then at the same time, you've also got a YouTube channel, Aspen. So, what has that been like on your general, let's say, mental state and stress levels? Has it helped or hurt your experience?
Oh, loaded question. So I've actually been taking a break from YouTube for quite a long time, and almost all social media, because I just sort of found out after a while it was kind of harmful. I mean, so I originally started it because I came here by myself and I had to do a lot of really hard things by myself. And I thought, oh gosh, you know what, this sucks. I want to connect with the community or provide resources, or at least by resources, even just experience, because I'm no expert, but just put that stuff out there. So if somebody is in my place, they can say, oh wait, there was this person who did this too, and it's doable. because I would often meet a lot of people that came here because of studies or came here because of a partner or some connection. So it wasn't like just being thrown into the deep end like I was, where I didn't know the language when I moved here. I didn't know anybody. And like 7 years ago when I came, there was not a lot of help in English or all the stuff we have now, like N26 or the health insurance is offering English support. This literally did not exist like 7 years ago. It's wild. Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, lucky for you guys, because like my second year learning how to do my taxes in German was just like, okay, learning experience growth, I guess. And so that was just sort of the thing. I just want to be like, hey, doable. Don't feel too bad about yourself. Support. But then it sort of just, I don't know, snowballed, and the online world is a really interesting and stressful place. And of course, there's less positivity than there is negativity. So even if I'm doing these little, silly videos talking and giving my opinion and whatnot, that's completely neutral. You get all of these people just coming and harassing you or telling you just these ridiculously mean things. It's like somebody clicking on my video tips learn German and be like, why are you wasting my time with this video? I am German. And I'm like, why are you watching it? It's like 12 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. So like I went to your house or sent you a direct email and said, here, take your time out of your day and watch this video.
Yeah, or people just like will watch a long video and comment after. It's like huge messages explaining that they did in fact watch the entire video, but all they do is trash talk you. Or people, the biggest thing which drove me bananas is people would be like, wow, your voice is so stupid and you sound like a baby. And I'm like, what? I can't do anything. Like, you don't have to be here. You really don't. I'm not forcing you. Please, there's better uses of your time. Go ahead. I encourage it. But and it's that type of thing to where it started out as, it was fun. I connected to community. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of amazing people I met. And the people that do comment nice things, it honestly makes so much of the difference. So I appreciate them. But still the majority is just grumpy people online. And of course, you say, all right, first of all, I don't have time in my day to go write and trash talk strangers, let alone just I don't have time for that. I got better things to do. And so you try to tell yourself, like, okay, I can't take this personally. Like, realistically, who cares? Whatever. But if you're waking up every single day and every single day you get told tons and tons of stuff, even though you know it's not true and you know it's a them problem, it still starts to break you down and wear you down a bit. And if you're already sort of living in a place where every day, even though you know your surroundings, it's still never going to be second nature to you. So it's just the combination of the two, it just starts to break you down. And I found for me, it just started taking a lot more than I was getting from it. And I realized, oh, this doesn't really make me that happy anymore. And like I had a lot of opportunities where I could have done that full time and really grown my channel huge. And I just sort of always steered away. And I was like, maybe it's this reason, maybe it's that reason. And then at the end, I just realized, no, it's because it doesn't make me that happy, and it's building up and becoming more of a burden. And I don't think this is healthy for me at the end of the day. And so I don't want to make this such a huge part of my life because it's deteriorating me a bit.
I can 100% understand that. I've got a very small YouTube channel now compared to yours. It's tiny. I think I've just hit like 320 viewers, but of course I was very happy about that. But I'm seriously thinking of not continuing it because just from what I've seen from that small amount of viewers, I haven't really had a viral video. I've had maybe one that went up to 5,000 views. But people, exactly like you say, that it sometimes the comments aren't even mean. They're just weird, and you're just thinking, why did you write that? And did you even watch the video? Like, or someone completely misinterprets what you said in the video, or what someone says in the video. It's almost like they watched a whole different video. I'm like, is this the one that we watched? Like the one that I put up here?
Yeah, or they're just misinterpreting. Like I would say every time I wanted to do a video that was a bit more honest and of course not super sugar coated. I would say not super sugar coated, but it's not saying something good about Germany, but saying something that's like, okay, this is something that's a bit difficult and it happens. And I always, try to specify that I'm not just saying life is hard, but I'm saying you have this challenge and I'm working on it still. But you know what? If it's difficult and you feel bad, don't feel bad for it because you had this. And my German audience always attacks that and goes, oh, well, if it's so hard, well, stop complaining. Maybe you should work more, this and that. And I'm like, but I'm specifically saying that I'm just complaining because I am working and because I think that's valid. You have the right to say, wow, this is difficult if you're continually making the effort to make change. Like, I, of course, agree that don't complain if you're not doing anything. That's where I think it's like, okay, well, I don't think you earned the right. But it's still the thing where it's like, you can't just say good stuff. And my German audience was very much like, tell us good stuff about our country or don't, or we're going to attack you. And I find it was really difficult because, especially with YouTube and I mean, even with podcasting, you have this level where you're like, I want to be authentic and genuine to connect with these people because I have this reason to do it. But at the same time, you have to learn to what level to protect yourself, just because they will just take so much and just rip it apart, even if it's just really genuine, you trying to connect, trying to be honest, they will use that against you. So all those things combined together just started to really affect me. And the thing is that I always thought, I'm like, YouTube, it's my space where I want to share what I want to share. So if you want something educational, go to a channel that's purely educational, fact-based. If you want something, there's a channel for everything, honestly. Yes. And mine, I just thought, you know what, I am doing a lot of hard work, but I want to create this space where maybe some of my content is silly, or I'm talking about, I don't know, the whole video about the differences with water. But I thought this was interesting. I thought it was funny. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it because it makes me happy and I think it's silly. But then it's like, it becomes a space where it's like you can't ever do anything right or wrong. And I sort of found that I was starting to get wrapped up in this world of toxic positivity, which is super abundant on social media and super difficult. And it's sort of like you start taking on in all this criticism that is not really constructive, and then you then start comparing, and then you start really just letting it sink in a bit too much, and you start just feeling like you need to people please, or you need to make this content that is only about the good stuff or is targeting a certain demographic to make them happy, and that just sort of snowballed a bit. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's unfair. Like, this is my space. I'm taking so much of my personal life and sharing it, and just sharing the happy parts of me that maybe they don't deserve to see. Because that was a big criticism, is people be like, oh, you're so excited and you're so fake and happy all the time. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what I want to show, the sides of me. Of course, I had normal human emotions, but I don't want to make a whole channel where it's me being angry or just me being sad. Like, I want to show the best part of me if I'm putting it online. And I feel like if I'm in a really good mood, I'll make a video and you'll see it. But it's not like, it's still quite not still multi-dimensional, this whole platform. But then, of course, it wears down on you and you start to get sort of sucked into that.
Let's talk for a second. You mentioned toxic positivity there. Just explain to me what you mean by toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity, it's sort of the concept that you should ignore negative feelings and only basically obsessively look on the bright side. And it's tricky because, of course, a lot of people say this. They, when I moved here, I was like, oh, these little everyday things are kind of tricky and they're starting to wear down. People are like, well, it's better than where you came from, or what about this, what about that? And sort of like putting a blanket on everything because one little thing is good in comparison to another. And then you should feel guilty for not being happy all the time or not being satisfied all the time. And then the other side of it is, as a person, you sort of adopt it as this unhelpful coping mechanism, which I would say 1,000% that's what I did. Use it to mask my feelings. And and just sort of like keep pushing myself and saying, no, everything's okay. Everything's okay. Like, the meme with the dog in the room that's on fire. Yeah. But then at the end, the problem is since you're masking and putting only this happy filter on yourself and more so like how you look at things, you end up getting so just built up and fatigued from constantly not allowing yourself to feel the proper spectrum of your emotions, or at least telling yourself that they're not valid.
And it's, of course, exacerbated by the fact that people, like you were saying, on Instagram and so on, generally only show that positive side of them, or that happy side of them. So it comes back to that comparison that you were mentioning earlier, that you compare your life to other people and you're like, oh, I guess I should be positive, or shouldn't be feeling like this because they're happy, everyone's happy, they have the same situation, I'm in a great country, whatever. And then there's a lot of pressure on you to change your mindset. But actually, sometimes part of healing is acknowledging what's there, like really accepting those negative feelings or dark feelings that you're experiencing. So I think that's also dangerous.
Yeah, I think one thing that really just drives me bananas, which I've always really annoyed at, is this whole culture of self-care. And this, I feel over the last years, it's become such a thing where people are like, oh, we are so woke, and we are so accepting mental health and take care of yourself. But it's more like it's not well-rounded still. It's like, great, mental health is good, and you should do yoga, you should treat yourself, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to talk about mental health and taking care of yourself, then you can't just talk about this part. You should say things like, you know what, if you've been really depressed, if you have just not really been able to leave your bed, or, I don't know, work on your hygiene for the last couple of days because you're really sitting in it feeling bad, then you should just not feel too guilty, because that's happens, and you're going to get out of it. And that's also taking care of your mental health is just, sometimes you just got to sit on it and wait till it goes away, and just acceptance. That's sort of the biggest mental health self-care move. But this is never really made public or explained. They're all just like, oh, go get a smoothie, go, And it's like, that's, no, you got to have both sides.
Yeah, and it's a matter of finding a balance anyway. I mean, if you're in that place, like you were saying, a few days where you can't get out of bed and you're struggling, it is a case of you need to find that thing that's going to motivate you, and you of course do want to find ways to get better, but it's not as simple as, take care of yourself, go to a wellness thing, or go get a smoothie, like you said. It's way more complex and nuanced than that, and that's the discussion, I guess, that's not happening a lot in social media.
Yeah, I mean, I see self-care as like, okay, if you can be up to going and working out, that's great. That's a very important aspect. But sometimes you can't, or sometimes you're not there yet. And the path to getting there is just accepting that we don't feel perfect all the time. We're not happy all the time. Even if your entire environment or your world is going great, but your mood is different, that's not something to be ashamed of or beat yourself up over, because it's, in a way, it's sort of just out of your control. You just have to accept you're feeling away. There must be a reason why, but if you don't know, that's okay. And if it doesn't fit this like standard of perfection or being happy or positive, you can't just be like, oh, I feel horrible, but it's sunny outside, so I guess I better be happy, or it's bad that I'm not happy. It's like, yeah, just accept it, and eventually accepting it will help you get up and get outside. But sometimes it's longer for other people or shorter for others. And that's the biggest sort of self-care thing, is just accepting that you can't control everything, and whatever you're feeling is always valid.
I love that your I wouldn't say counter to toxic positivity, but your answer, or not answer, that's also the wrong word, but what you're suggesting, this acceptance, I think that is an amazing point. I think that is so important, just to accept where you are and what's happening, and that it's okay. Just like be that. I think that's the self-care that you're talking about, being okay with yourself. Like, okay, it's okay to go through this tough time. It's okay that you're struggling. Just acknowledge it. I mean, it's not okay that you're struggling, but you have to be okay with the fact that you're struggling. And yeah, it's that acceptance is important.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely been, I've The last like few years, I think I really sort of learned that because I was always pushing that. I push myself, and just till I am so burnt out and I don't have any more energy, but I just constantly like use toxic positivity against myself. I'm telling myself, oh, okay, you can do better than this. You're better than this, or you shouldn't be like this. You should be happy for this reason, that reason, and it's just sort of like bullying myself in that regard whenever I'm not super happy or super in the best place when I think I should be. And then after a while, I realize, okay, well, this is not helping me progress or grow at all. It's holding me back because you just have to accept this type of thing because nobody's happy all the time and everybody has a different experience. So it is valid if I'm feeling upset or overwhelmed because I don't know, I've had a bad day and I wanted to go to the grocery store, but I realized I don't know the word for this really random item I need that I haven't needed so far in Germany. And I'm too tired and I don't want to like have to search and figure it out. I just want to know it's on this spot in this aisle in this place and then I go home. But no, they can't turn off certain things. And in that sense, it's like, okay, well, I can just fight myself and say, why are you being grumpy? Why are you just thinking of the fact that, oh, well, you do know this second language. You can find it. Oh, put positive about that. And instead just going, you know what? I feel bad. This is definitely a annoying part of my life, and I shouldn't tell myself it's not because of some other reason. They're not connected, and it just makes me feel worse. So I'm just gonna sit in this and not feel the best, and then it's gonna pass, and I'll be like, okay.
Okay, yeah, and I can figure out how to deal with it in future. Because it's not going to go away. You're always like, chances are you're always going to feel like it. Like you said, living in a foreign country like Germany, you're never. I've been here 14 years and I still don't feel like a local. Like I still feel like a tourist. So it's always going to be an aspect of your life that you have to deal with. And I think accepting that is a large part to figuring out how you can deal with it in the future when it happens. What coping mechanisms have you used through difficult times?
Yeah, so I'd have to say that the toxic positivity was probably the biggest one the past years. And just sort of a lot of masking, and I almost like gaslighting myself in that regard, just being like, no, it's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And then I was just, I used to run a bit. Like when I first moved here, I got into running because I had so much mental exhaustion. I found the best way to counteract that was with something equally physically straining or just, even that out. And so I was always into that, but I didn't rely on it, I think, more than I should have, or just had more hobbies that I basically just enjoyed for the sake of enjoying. And that's sort of what I recently found out sort of is just the worst thing you can do, basically, because I was so focused on everything I do, all the hobbies I do have to have a purpose. They have to somehow help me progress or help me develop, grow, whatever. And then I realized this is all contributing to this whole toxic relationship with positivity and with myself. And so what I found the best thing to do was just get a couple hobbies that I just enjoy because I enjoy them. So with running, I went through a phase where I started using that to put more strain on myself and to push myself to be better and compare and, oh, I shouldn't be upset because I don't know, I can run. Something like that where it's like, okay, good to know, but like give yourself a break. You just do it because you want to do it. How about that?
Yeah.
Or getting mad because I was supposed to run today and I didn't. And so then I thought, okay, I need to find hobbies where they're just goofy, they're just fun, and they just can sort of cut this habit. And so then I started just, setting, okay, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a run when I feel like it. But then also I was like, okay, what do I like to do that I really can't use against myself? And so then I started roller skating.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I started just cooking. And I love cooking, but it was also the aspect of I need to have a purpose for this. And then I thought, no, I'm just gonna start making things just because they're fun. And then it turns into Taco Tuesdays for my German friends, or just seeing what type of food I could make from some random recipe. Or I don't know, I made this one where it was I cut potatoes and made them look like roses and baked them with like all this stuff, like just shaping food, like little things like this where it's just like, this is goofy and this is so much fun.
Yeah.
And so I found that to be sort of the best thing. I mean, because a lot of people say, oh, get a hobby, do a sport, or do a extracurriculars of some sort, learn another language or this and that.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is great, but it sort of adds to that if you're in this world.
It comes with these things come with their own stresses and strains and things like that. I relate to what you were saying about running as well, because I picked up running. It's always been a coping mechanism with me with stress. Like, I find it's an amazing way to distress. But then I ran a marathon, which I trained for really, really hard. It kind of worked out. And then I've never been able to get back to running a second marathon. Like, I'm training for one now, and I've like screwed up my training program so badly. But with me, what happened was I went through 2019. I also had something that happened that caused a lot of, for the first time in my life, mental health issues, and really like went from, I've always been fortunate to not experiencing, like, I get down, but then I'm always easy to get back to that happy state. But then something, like I said, 2019, something happened that brought me down, and it resulted in a lot of things. It resulted in this podcast, for example. But what I found, what was interesting with running, was exactly what you were saying. I would always put there would always be a competition that I was going for, a half marathon or the marathon. And now suddenly, when this happened in 2019, I started running again because of I'd stopped for a while. And because of what happened and because of my mental state, I started running. But then in 2020, there were no competitions for me to run in. Like, there was no half marathons or no marathons. And I struggled to motivate myself to run, because that was always my thing. And it's like you said, I hadn't learned for running how to make it just be fun. Like, something that I do that's great for my health, but that I'm just doing, that I go out today, maybe without the watch. I would always have to record my runs so I could see it on Strava afterwards. And that's like, it does come with strain when you see, okay, I'm not getting faster now, or why am I struggling? And, what's my motivation if there's no race? And so that was my relationship with running, and I had to change it because of the no competition. So that was maybe good. And I've learned to just accept running is just great for everything. And I guess it stands for any exercise. That's any exercise that you can do can help your mental health. And also there's this park run concept in Germany. It's international, which is like a 5-kilometer fun run. And that is something I also recommend foreigners do, is just get out there. It's a way to meet people. 5 kilometers on a Saturday morning. It's wonderful. But of course that wasn't happening during coronavirus time. So yeah, I think it's important to be able to have something that has no strain that it brings with it. It's just something that you do, like you said, something goofy, something fun that you can lose yourself, get into the flow of doing, but have no ulterior motive or no purpose behind.
Yeah, so it's funny because I was like, oh, what can I do? And then I was like, oh gosh, I loved roller skating when I was little. And then I thought, oh, well, that was like 20 years ago. I don't know. I'm not as flexible. I'm a lot more scared of falling these days.
Yes.
And so it's actually like during COVID, I was like, you know what? Nobody's around. I can't be afraid. And so then I just got another pair, and I was like, I'm going to get back into this. And of course, all my German friends are like, that's so goofy. What is the point of this? And I'm like, okay, confirmation. This is exactly what I should be doing.
This is what I should do.
Like, I'm just zipping around in circles outside, and my friends are like looking out from us. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's so much fun. It's horrible. I like falling horrible ways, and I'm just the type of person where I fall and I just laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, how silly. Let's do that again. But it's just the type of thing where with roller skating, I can't be in my head, or I can't overthink it. Otherwise, I lose my balance. So it's just like, okay, cool.
So find your roller skating, I think, is what we're saying. Like, whatever your roller skating is, that's what you need to do. Go and find that, and it can help you through a lot of things.
Exactly. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be cool at all either. You just have to have fun. Otherwise, it's like, why are you doing it?
Yeah. Aspen, it's been amazing speaking to you, and you're so open and honest, and I really appreciate it. And I think people can really get some real insights and from the discussion that we've just had. But before we end, what do you have one biggest piece of advice that you would give foreigners coming to Germany or who are in Germany?
I would have to say the biggest piece of advice is just don't forget who you are in the process, and find something you want to do just because it sparks joy, just because you enjoy it, and always keep this with you in your process of moving abroad, living abroad, because it is the best thing to rely on.
Yeah. And if people want to get in touch with you, I'll put all your contact details in the show notes. You're on Instagram, you're of course on YouTube, and you're reachable by email. So I'll put all of that stuff in the show notes if people want to reach out to you. And yeah, I thank you again, Aspen, for making the time and coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a really nice talk.
And that's it for this week. And as I said, for a while, I'm going to be taking a summer break. I'll be back in September. And in the meantime, I will be posting a few reruns on this channel. And I'll also be going pretty quiet, I think, on my social media channel. So I guess I'm just going to disappear for a while, and I'll speak to you all again in September when I get back. In the meantime, you can still write emails to me, info@thegermanyexperience.de. And also, if you know people who might be interested in this podcast, just tell them about it. Just spread the word. And yeah, so that's it. I hope you have a wonderful summer wherever you are. And I look forward to speaking to you again in September. Music in this episode by my band 10 Cent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson. Until the end, stay healthy, stay safe. Auf Wiederhören.